Welcome to Purchase Broadcast News. My name is Ashley Friedman, and I'll be your host this afternoon. In recent weeks, the United States Agriculture Department has updated its guideline on food packaging labels. The update focuses on terms related to environmental issues, such as climate smart, regenerative, and sustainably sourced. The use of these words, specifically by meat producers, is the main concern of the department due to the marketing claims often being misleading and unsupported by sufficient evidence. At Purchase, the college's current dining service, Chartwell's, similarly uses labels related to the environmental impact of items in multiple dining locations on our campus. We wanted to know how much students pay attention to these buzzwords and ultimately if it affects their purchasing decisions. Here's what they had to say.
Like me personally, not really, just because I feel like,
It doesn't influence me either way.
Nah, I usually don't look at that, to be honest.
No? Why or why not?
I don't know. I just kind of get what I need, and I don't really pay attention to that. I probably should,
Yeah.
but I don't really pay attention to it right now.
To be honest, no.
Yes.
And why or why not?
I would like to support like sustainable agriculture, so I will do that if it's like within a certain price range, obviously.
I think that definitely it's helped over time make people be more conscious about what they're consuming and how their, where their waste goes, but ultimately it's such a minuscule change. I think, BP is the one who came up with the carbon footprint concept, and they're an oil company. It's like they're the ones who should really be putting in the effort, but what they're doing is they're putting the blame on the consumer and making the consumer think, oh, I should be making these little changes in my life. And it's like, yeah, sure, if 8 billion people make those changes, maybe that means something. But at the end of the day, 8 billion people can't make those changes. There are so many things where, like, it's cheaper to not be sustainable a lot of the times, and it's easier, and it's hard for people in the world that we live in to really, to eat vegan or to buy sustainably made clothing. Like, it's hard for people to do that. So it's really frustrating.
okay, so I'm like a broke college student, right? So I feel like when it has like organic, like non-GMO, like whatever stuff like that, like it's just more expensive. So like me personally, like I don't care.
Well, I usually just get like what my mom or dad tells me to get in terms of the eggs and stuff from the grocery store. And the main thing I'm keeping in mind is usually like, affordability. I'm not really looking at like the labels like that.
Personally, I kind of glaze over it because I'm very jaded when it comes to those things.
Because the whole point of those labels is to create less of a carbon footprint and to create less pollution and to create less of, all the things that harm the environment. But given that those foods and those labels are being produced on a mass scale anyway, I don't see a point to those labels because, yes, sure, they might be creating some sort of difference. Like, I'm sure they are. But if it's on the shelf, it's on like 10,000 other shelves.
I don't think it really is making the changes that companies claim that it's making.
I think it should be more clear, and also I think there just isn't a lot of education around it in general, so even if there is like that labeling, people might not necessarily know like what that means.
I also just like grew up in a situation where like it was like if it's at the supermarket, I don't care what it is. If it's cheap, it's cheap. It's good.
Just generally, like, greenwashing is kind of like that, where a company will say, this is like more sustainable than this other product, but they don't really make it clear that it's still less sustainable than, all these other things out there.
I definitely think that if something is packaged a certain way, it needs to be there with backing. Maybe test it with third parties or something. on a mass scale, but until that stuff is regulated and there's a way to ensure that everything you see is absolutely true on the things you buy at the supermarket, I just go by whatever I need to cook.